How are you?
I'm great, thank you very much for having me.
What inspired you to become a fitness icon?
I didn't plan it, that's for sure.
What are the fundamentals of your fitness philosophy?
That you don't want to do, but you do them anyway.
But what about vegetarians and vegans? How they will fulfill their protein requirements?
You may just have to be a little bit more experimental.
In spite of people are having pre-workouts and steroids, what is the science behind it and what are the advantages and disadvantages of it?
If you've got a better pump there, more blood flow, you're going to get a better mind-muscle connection, so you're going to get better development. So that's how a pre-workout should work.
Initially, they tend to lose very fast weight, but after a certain time, they're stuck.
It all comes down to several different factors. That's like saying how long is a piece of string or how far is up.
5 tips to stay healthy and fit.
Number one is
I still remember my father used to say, being healthy and fit is the best gift which you ever can give it to yourself. But being healthy, you have to put a lot of efforts, put a lot of hard work, determination, dedication, discipline, commitment, and consistency. Our today's guest is a living example of it. Although he doesn't need any introduction, but still, here we are going to introduce him. World-renowned fitness and wellness coach, Kris Gethin. Welcome, Kris, to our show, Unscripted Zindagi with Kirti. How are you?
I'm great, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Kris, you have trained Hrithik Roshan, John Abraham, MMA fighters, so many celebrities, and you are inspiration for them. But my question is, what inspired you to become a fitness icon?
What inspired? Like I didn't plan it, that's for sure. But you know, I raced motocross for many years, and I had a lot of injuries, and I found the only thing that alleviated me of the pain and I guess the depression that was associated with the injury was going through rehab with resistance training.
Okay.
So that's what inspired me, because now I was alleviated of a lot of those symptoms. So I was like, I want to learn more about this, because if I can feel good all the time, I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there that want to feel good. So that's what really inspired me. And I guess the feeling of eating a certain way not only transformed me physically, but mentally as well. I found that all of a sudden I could retain content where I had maybe a little bit of ADD before. So that was a completely new way of life and living. So that was my inspiration.
Okay. So do you incline since your childhood towards fitness? Or are you a common, normal, chubby kid? When and how your fitness journey began?
It was from motocross, but no, nobody in my family is into weight training. The only person that is my second cousin, called Adam Gethin, but my immediate family, to this day, not anybody is into working out. So I was definitely the outlier there. But, you know, from a very young age, like I said, I was racing motocross from the age of like 6 to about 19, but we didn't know anything about what we should be eating. Like, the sport is very different today to what it was back then. So we just eat anything and everything, but it was just through activity of working on the farm, racing motocross, that I was able to stay relatively thin. I was relatively small as a child, but definitely wasn't healthy. So I wasn't inspired by anybody, especially in my immediate surroundings. Like, I grew up on a farm in the middle of rural Wales. So, you know, I didn't really interact with people much or kids much. You know, I guess the closest company that I had was animals more than anything.
What are the fundamentals of your fitness philosophy?
Doing things that you don't want to do, but you do them anyway. Because, you know, as we get, you know, going through, I guess, the generations that we are now, everything is designed to be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You know, so we have technology where we could sit here and probably order anything to this couch right now, and we could watch movies from this couch right now from our device. And then, of course, you know, we have artificial light wherever we go. So we're staying up later than what we should be. So cortisol levels are higher and for longer than they should be. And we're getting sicker for it. And I think it's because we're always seeking comfort now. As we were younger as kids, we got used to doing things that we didn't want to do. So then when we got a little bit older and maybe left home, now we're seeking comfort and doing things that we want to do, which I believe is killing us. So I think we need to go back to what our ancestors did and did things that they didn't want to do based on survival. So, you know, do not hit the snooze button. If it's cold outside, go for a run. If it's raining, still go out for a run. You know, you want a warm shower, have a cold shower or an ice bath. You know, start your day off with harder stuff, and then the rest of the day will be easier. But we have something that's called like the hope molecule. And when you work out, it signals that hope molecule. We have a part of the brain that's called the mid-singular prefrontal cortex that shrinks as we get older and do easier stuff. If we retire, it shrinks. They've actually shown in obese people that it really, really shrinks. But as we're younger, when we're growing and we're doing things that we don't want to do, it grows. And that has been associated with longevity. So if you want to live longer and healthier, of course, you got to eat the right way, you got to exercise, but do things that you don't want to do.
As it is, you truly said, like fitness is a lifestyle. So how do people maintain their lifestyle in day-to-day life?
Well, I think people overthink it and they get overwhelmed and think they have to go to the gym hours and hours every day. Because people say to me constantly when I'm in India, how many hours do you train a day? I'm like, hours? I don't have time for hours. I'm too busy for hours. I'll train for like 45 minutes and maybe 4 times a week. That's all it takes. It's quality over quantity. I think the biggest culprit is outside of the gym when it comes to the nutrition, because like we're being marketed to, you know, the fats combined with carbohydrates light up the bliss point in our brain, which creates an addiction. So I think it's being aware of those things, but it's the preparation that is key. So if you wait to the morning to prepare your food, well, guess what? You're probably going to sleep in, you're going to be late, and you're going to go, I'm going to seek convenience and comfort instead. So just start with the baby steps. Maybe see if you can work out 3 times a week. That's perfect. And then once you've got that down, let's see if you can
increase.
Yeah, let's see if you can drink more water now, and maybe get rid of the sodas or a lot of like the calorie-laden coffees and just have a normal coffee. You know, just little baby steps so it doesn't become overwhelming, because everybody comes to the gym in January saying, yes, I'm going to do this. Then those best intentions fall to the wayside at the end of February because they overwhelmed themselves. So maybe start with habits. Once you create the neural pathways to that one habit, then create the neural pathways to the new habit, and so on and so forth.
As you mentioned also, diet is a very important part of your lifestyle
You are
and
what you
maintaining your
eat.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
But as non-vegetarians, they have a lot of options for protein. But what about vegetarians and vegans? How they will fulfill their protein requirements?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I always tell, you know, I have a lot of vegetarian and plant-based clients. And you're right, like the variety is much, much less. But can you still transform? Of course you can. You may just have to be a little bit more experimental with your recipes. So, you know, the paneer meal that you ate earlier is not the same as the paneer meal that you're going to have later. So you kind of change it up a little bit. But yeah, we've got paneer, you've got tofu, you got whey protein, there are lentils, there are chickpeas. So you can still mix it up. You know, when you are having things like lentils, I do suggest that you soak them. So it gets rid of like some of the plant defense mechanisms. You can digest it a little bit easier, and maybe supplement with essential amino acids if you're an athletic person, because we don't have enough leucine, one of the amino acids, in plant-based diets a lot of the time to signal anabolism for muscle growth. So you may want to supplement with some essential amino acids in that respect. But the one thing that I do suggest to my clients is just get some recipe books, and you know, become a little bit more experimental if you find eating the same stuff every day is boring and bland. But we need to shy away from fun food, because it's that fun food that's killing us, that's shortening our lifespan. You know, our ancestors didn't seek fun food, they just sought functional foods to live, to survive, to thrive. And that's what we should be doing. But because we're just so used to lighting up this bliss point in our brain, we're always seeking that.
Okay. And you have mentioned about diet and protein and food habits especially. But nowadays, products are also introducing in the fitness world, like protein powders, protein bars, and supplements, as you have mentioned earlier also. So what are the myths and reality about it?
Okay, well, of course, you always, just like you have good hairdressers and you have bad hairdressers, You're going to have good like protein bars and bad protein bars. So, you know, it's essential that you turn over that protein bar ingredient that is usually hidden, and you have to unfold it to see what those ingredients are. Now, if there's a lot of ingredients that you cannot pronounce, chances are your body's not going to recognize them either. So try to stay away from them. Go for, like, I know I'm not associated with any brands here, but for instance, there's a Whole Truth bar here that I've noticed that reads quite well. It's quite clean ingredients. So you want to make sure that you are having ingredients that are clean. Now, the myths that I've heard, especially with protein powders, is that it's a steroid, it's going to make your hair fall out and all this stuff, which is untrue. You know, all protein isolators is milk protein, but removes of the fat and the sugar, the lactose. So actually, it can actually be healthier for you. It's easier for your body to break down and digest. It's pretty much like a pre-digested protein. It's the fastest or quickest digested, most higher bioavailable food that you can consume in a supplemental form. You know, provided that you're going for good brands. But you know, quite often I've been here in India and I've been asked about steroids and protein powders in the same question, and I'm like, what? They're completely different. One can actually help you with your health, and the other one can actually take years away from your health. You know, very, very different. And some people will rely on them more than others. Like I only have like protein after my workout, my supplement, after my workout, and that's it. And I don't train every day, so maybe 4 times a week or 5 times a week. But the rest of the time, I always encourage solid foods. But some people may rely on protein powders more because I'll eat all my meals solid. But some people, because of work commitments, because they're in the meetings, they cannot break out their Tupperware container. It's going to be easier for them to drink their meal.
They substitute food with the protein shakes and protein bars and all. So what about if we say like steroids and protein powders are totally different thing. In spite of having like a good lifestyle, keeping body hydrated, balanced diet,
Then why people use
pre-workouts and steroids, what is the science behind it and what are the advantages and disadvantages of it?
Okay, I don't think there are any advantages of steroids, to be honest with you. Of course, there's going to be some people who have naturally low testosterone levels as they get older. So some doctors will prescribe testosterone. So they call it testosterone replacement therapy because their body's not producing their own testosterone anymore. So of course, there's medical reasons behind steroids in certain situations that are mandated by doctors, of course, and overseen by doctors. But then pre-workouts, for example, again, you're going to have really good pre-workouts. You're going to have really, really, really bad pre-workouts. Because a lot of companies will try to save money. They will fairy dust, like they'll have a long list of ingredients, but we call it fairy dusting, where there's a very small amount of each ingredient. But then when it comes to caffeine, now it's like 400 milligrams, which is a lot of caffeine. But people feel the effects and think, wow, this pre-workout must work. Not knowing that caffeine can have a diuretic effect, so now you're dehydrated, and it can be a blood constrictor. So of course, when we're working out in a gym, we want blood vasodilation. We want to feel the pump. But if you've got too much caffeine in there, that can actually constrict. But a pre-workout advantage, if it is a good pre-workout, is that, for instance, if it's got beta-alanine, it's going to help buffer the lactic acid buildup, so you can actually perform more reps. Or if it's got creatine in it, it can actually help with what's called adenosine triphosphate, our ATP, our energy stores, so you could potentially put out one more repetition. If it has citrulline in it, which has been extracted from watermelon, if you have an efficacious dose, which is about 8 grams in that product, that's going to help you feel more of a pump. So let's say you're training back, but you don't get a good mind-muscle connection, so you can't feel that you're working your back. If you've got a better pump there, more blood flow, you're going to get a better mind-muscle connection, so you're going to get better development. So that's how a pre-workout should work. And if it's just filled with caffeine and fairy dust with the other ingredients, it's not going to work for you. But it'll save your pocket some money.
Yeah. Recently, the definition of fitness has been changed. Now, when we talk about fitness, fitness is equal to overall well-being. It includes physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So, how does exercising and gym workouts help to gain overall well-being?
Well, people are going to feel better for it because they're going to assimilate their foods, providing the food is clean, much more efficiently. It's actually, so it's going to provide more energy because you're going to have better turnover of that food. If you are more metabolically active from actually working out, okay, you're going to have much better blood sugar stability. So you're going to have less crashes, so you'll have more energy, and you'll less cravings because of the less crashes as well. So if you've got better blood sugar stability, it's great to prevent pre-diabetes as well. So of course, you're going to feel good, and internally you're going to be better for it as well. And of course, we've shown that grip strength and squat strength has been associated with longevity. And if you've got better balance from working out, especially as you get a little bit older, then you're going to prevent the onset of possible accidents. Because you hear about people in their 80s or 90s, they fall over, they break a hip, and then 6 months later, unfortunately, they pass away. So you can actually prevent that because you're creating more density within your bones as well. So they've actually studied people in areas, you've heard of the blue zones, where people live to a disproportionate age, over 100 years old, but in good health. They study these people, like for instance in Okinawa, they will sit on the floor over 100 years old and stand up about 40 to 50 times a day. That's their resistance training. These people never lose their balance or break a hip because they got good bone density and balance as well. So that's why it's very important to continue to move. You don't move it, you're going to lose it. So you're going to feel good because you're releasing endorphins, that feel-good hormone. And if you're feeling good, the chances are you're going to be more productive.
You have talked about exercise and diet. And what is the importance of water intake and sleep
in
sure. maintaining fitness?
I'm glad that you said the latter, because here we are in India, people go to bed late.
Yeah.
As soon as we are finished at 7 o'clock, my wife knows this, I'll be going straight to the hotel. I'll read for about 30, 45 minutes, and then it's lights out. I go to bed early because I want to adhere to what our ancestors did. And they didn't have the artificial light or screens that kept them awake.
Yeah.
As soon as that candle went out or the fire went out, they went to bed. They went to bed early. We don't do that, especially here in India. People will call me up at 9 o'clock at night and say, you want to go out for a coffee? I'm like, what? I'm going to be up at 4 a.m. No way. So if your cortisol level, so as you know, I'm wearing blue light blocking glasses right now. So I know there's a flicker on all these lights. That flicker is going to raise my cortisol levels. So that's going to keep me alert to say, hey, it's daylight. Stay awake, stay alert. And I'm not going to release melatonin. So I'm not going to have good quality sleep. So I don't want to put any stress on my heart by keeping my cortisol levels up, because I know heart disease is the biggest killer in the world. So I want to do whatever I can to lull myself to sleep and not have to rely on melatonin supplements, because I know as I get older, I'm going to release less melatonin anyway. So it's very important that I wear these glasses if I'm in artificial light situations. Outside, that doesn't flicker. If you look at a fire or if you look at a candle, it doesn't flicker. But if you were to film these lights, it flickers. So I kind of stay away from that. So sleep is very, very important for me. Sleep is the difference between a day of despair or a day that I'm going to dominate. So I prioritize my sleep because that's how I recover, and recovery dictates our performance, not just physically, but mentally. When it comes to hydration, our body's made up of at least 70% fluid. Our cells are made up of fluid. And of course, if you're dehydrated, then you're not going to function. That's like our cooling system for a car. That's our cooling system for our engine as well. It helps with the transportation of nutrients. Of course, if people have headaches, the chances are they don't need a paracetamol. They need to drink more water. And of course, we have sodium and magnesium that helps with the relaxation and contraction of the muscle. Or let's talk about our electrolyte balance. If we are dehydrated, then we don't have the electrolyte balance to properly contract and relax our muscles either. So it's very, very important. If I'm training someone in the gym and I see that their performance is down, the majority of the time it isn't because they didn't eat right the day before or they didn't sleep. It has a big factor. Of course, it definitely has a negative effect if it isn't on point. But majority of the time it's lack of hydration. We drink coffee, but the caffeine has a diuretic effect. We drink tea and think that's hydrating, but it's fluid, it's water. And I try to encourage my clients to drink about a gallon of water a day, all dependent on the climate. Obviously, if they sweat a little bit more because they're in a hotter climate, then maybe I'll increase that. But it's usually about a gallon of water a day. That's important, it is. So I have my water with me all the time.
Yeah, and people misunderstood, like when you talk about fluid, they replace water to orange juice, canned juice, and something else. How do you think about it?
Yeah, orange juice is terrible. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it's good. You're much better off eating fruit.
Yeah.
So instead of having orange juice, just have an orange.
Yeah.
You know, that's fine. When you remove the fluid, obviously, and you know, you're putting it in, say, a glass, the amount of sugar in a glass of orange juice is about the same as what you'll find in a glass of the same volume of Coca-Cola or Sprite or anything like that. Now, is it a little bit healthier? Of course it is. There's some vitamins in there. You get vitamin C, blah, blah, blah. That is going to be beneficial for you. But you'd be better off just eating that orange instead of having all that sugar that's going to give you a massive insulin spike and then a crash and then create insulin resistance where now all of a sudden you're storing body fat, but you never used to. You know, that happens all the time. We can drink orange juice when we're younger and eat a certain way when we're younger. But if you continue to do that, it creates more insulin resistance, more and more and more. And then all of a sudden you do not assimilate or synthesize the foods as well as you once did.
I'm going to ask a very common query, and I'm sure a lot of people gone through during their fat loss journey. Initially, they tend to lose very fast weight, but after a certain time, they're stuck and they face challenges. Why is it so?
It all comes down to several different factors. That's like saying how long is a piece of string or how far is up. Now, for instance, it could be because that person's not sleeping early enough or they're not getting enough sleep. So again, they're creating insulin resistance and they're releasing too many stress hormones, you know, like cortisol, for instance. A lot of people live, especially in this day and age, in what's called like a sympathetic state. They're anxious, they're stressed. I got to meet this deadline. I'm in a rush. I got to do this. I got to stay up later. I got all these deadlines to meet, and it comes with stress. So when your body is in that fight or flight, or we call it sympathetic dominant state, your body doesn't assimilate and utilize the food as efficiently as it did. Your thyroid could possibly downregulate. Your metabolism slows down. So that's why it's very important that we don't just rely on dopamine. We rely on oxytocin and serotonin. Start the day with meditation. Rest and digest when you're eating your food. Don't be scrolling or reading or in a rush. Put your fork down between bites. Enjoy the senses of smell, of taste, of sight. Appreciate the food. How many people's hands it went through before it got onto your plate. And there's a great book called The Slow Down Diet that has studies that prove that you will digest so much more of that food after you've consumed it if you do it slowly, as opposed to potentially storing it. And, you know, a lot of people, I guess, not always train to absolute failure when they are working out with weights. And I think people assume that if you start working out with weights, all of a sudden you're going to look like a bodybuilder. That isn't so. You're going to create more muscle density that is going to make you a little bit more metabolically active so you can burn through more calories. And the other, I'd say, common mistake is that people crash diets. They will reduce too many calories too soon or starve themselves. Every one of my clients, except for days that I get them to fast, like on non-training days, are on about 6 meals a day. Little and often, because I'm trying to stoke that fire all the time to continue to allow that fat-burning flame start first thing in the morning until they go to bed. If they starve themselves too often, now all of a sudden the body goes, okay, I'm not going to get fed for about 6 hours, maybe 8 hours, maybe 18 hours. So I'm going to store it because I don't know. They may take me to the gym. They may take me for a run. So I better have that energy on supply somewhere. So I'll store it here.
Last, Kris, just give us 5 tips to stay healthy and fit.
5, okay, well, I've covered quite a few of them. Number 1 is sleeping. Prioritize your sleep. Now, you may want to get a sleep tracker, just like I've got a ring. So I wear a ring. You know, there's something called the Ultrahuman ring that you can get here in India. There's, you know, you can get a Fitbit or whatever. So you can see in the morning. That's like having a personal trainer on your finger or your wrist that says, go to bed, because you don't want to face looking at that sleep score the following day and going, oh my God, I only slept 5 hours or 4 hours. I'm probably not going to function as I should now. Whereas if you wake up and go, wow, yeah, I got a good 8 hours sleep or 7 hours sleep and it's good quality, I'm ready to attack the day. So I'd say sleep is number 1. Number 2 is just working on consistency. not Monday to Friday, but actually it includes Saturday and Sunday as well. Because during the week where we got a structure, we go to work at a certain time or we have commitments, but then we use the weekend to go, you know what, you deserve time off. You deserve to enjoy this food and to relax, put your feet up, go to the movies, watch Netflix, which is okay in balance, you know, have a little bit of balance, but don't overwhelm yourself with that because you can undo all your good from the week just in a day or two, you know? So work on consistency, just a little bit every day. Number 3, I'd say journaling. If you write down everything that you're doing, the amount of meals that you consumed, what you ate, what time you went to bed, if you drank your fluid, what if you worked out that particular day, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, it wasn't that good. Because I always encourage my clients to highlight where they messed up. If they went over 3 hours of their mealtime, highlight. If they went to bed late, highlight. If they didn't drink their gallon of water, highlight. So they look at the end of the day and go, wow, that wasn't as good as I thought it would. Number 3, get your 10,000 steps a day. Okay. So not just coming to the gym for that hour, but making sure that you're active throughout the day so you can allow better blood sugar stability. After you have a meal, go for a walk for like 10 minutes. That will really help what's called that postprandial spike of glucose post a meal. It will bring it down nice and quick. Further from that, let me see. We mentioned this before, hydration. You know, and that does include in tea, coffee, or you know the thing that disguises. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be water. You know, because that can really provide so much energy for your day that you would never know. And a lot of people do confuse hunger and cravings with hydration. So sometimes people do reach for that cookie or the bad food, not knowing that they are in fact dehydrated. So when they hydrate themselves, they're less likely to reach for the bad food, the cookies, the chocolates, or anything like that. And lastly, especially if you're a parent, be a leader. You know, kids learn by observation. Of course, you can tell them what to do, they probably won't do it. But as soon as they start observing you, they start to mimic and mirror exactly what you're doing. So that's why I'm an uncle, I'm not a father, but I love my nieces and my nephew, and I always try to encourage them to live a healthier life. My sister does a very good job like that as well. Okay. So they're always cooking their vegetables. They've got a little garden that they see to as well. So, if you're a father, if you're a mother, try to lead by example. Don't tell them what to do, show them what to do.
Very true. Thank you so much, Kris. It was a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure from this episode, people will get more useful, more information they will get and benefited as much as they possible. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. They replace water to orange juice to give you
Oh, thank you ever so much.
So it has transformed me from 360-degree angle.
For sure. Well, it helps you look at everything in equanimity. It's very reactive.